Namaste everyone. In this session we'll try to understand some significant aspect on Maxim 7, which is all about revenge. First I'll go through it and then I'll share with you all my thoughts and understanding. Maxim 7. If you are feeling wronged by anyone, do not wish for revenge. Instead, think this comes from God and be grateful. Almost all religions unanimously agree that whatever happens is the result of our actions. Nobody ever suffers in contravention of this principle. When such is the case, one will naturally be led to the conclusion that it is really the fate which he himself has built up. Truly speaking, we ourselves are the makers of fate. When we do something by applying our head and heart, we form impressions thereof at the base, which remain there in seed form till they are washed off by the effect of bogam, the process of undergoing the effects. The bogam is thus essential and indispensable. As a rule, nature wants to keep everything pure and crystal clear, just as it had originally come down in the beginning. Even the slightest coating veils its luster. This in itself, being a power, assumes a kind of life which we relate with our own karmas or actions. It is because we pose ourselves as the doers. This very thought forces its impressions. When such thoughts get accumulated, they form numerous coils. The heat of thought contained in it promotes the growth of activity, which sets up a sort of boiling action in it. According to the law of nature, everything tends to go back to its source. I repeat, according to the law of nature, everything tends to go back to its source. Since owing to the continuous contact of heat, its heaviness grows unendurable, it becomes necessary for it to return to the origin in order to relieve itself of the weight. Things coming out from even smaller things get expanded when they find sufficient scope for it. The expansion is full with the force according to the volume it covers, because the things which have sprung up naturally possess power. When this is the case, it now turns another phase and begins to cover all available space, affecting even the layers reserved for bogam. This leads to the commencement of sufferings. I have taken up the subject very briefly, though every point in it could be further illustrated separately. The circumstances of the process of bogam, which may be from internal causes or external, are thus created. This external help comes in the form of suffering caused by the wrongs done by others, against which the people generally poison their thought on account of their own ignorance. I repeat this again. The external help comes in the form of suffering caused by the wrongs done by others, against which the people generally poison their thought on account of their own ignorance. This is very improper because this action, having helped the process of purification, has in fact put you under a sense of obligation. When this is the case, the work done through an external agency, it may be any, has, in other words, rendered the function of a true friend. This may seem to be an uncommon approach since this basic philosophy was never taken into account before, for the reason that it came out simply in the form of an advice to take everything as coming from the Lord, so that the feelings of resentment may not arise and one may not lose nobility of character. Thus, it is now quite evident that anything that comes to us for our ultimate good, may it be from any medium, fills our heart with delight and promotes in us a sense of gratitude. So, all of us, I think, without an exception, have gone through this complex nature of our heart and mind. We restrict our understanding to this negative aspect of negative reaction coming out of the actions done by others or by nature. When something good is done, we react in a positive way. Can love that we receive and we respond with love, is it a revenge? Though its response is similar in nature. When someone does bad to us, we react similarly, perhaps with a greater force. This is called revenge, but love in response is not called a revenge. I took a revenge because she loved me. I love her so much. But this is considered differently. Such responses are also no less a contributor in forming the veils and complexities than revengeful intentions that we create or harbor in our hearts. Any sort of response, be it in a positive way or be it in a negative way, it is bound to create complexities in our heart. It is not just the revengeful act or intention that I am going to perpetrate. We have seen it, we have read it, we have heard it, we have kind of watched in Mahabharata movie. How Drupad's son takes the revenge and beheads Drona. Right? Simple insult resulting into a loss of life of someone. That in turn creates a very bitter heart, the heart of Aswatthama, who wants to avenge the death of his father. Revenge leading to avenge, and it multiplies. You can also see how Bhishma invited his death because of the revengeful actions that he borrowed from the previous life. Sikandi, you all know the story of Sikandi and how he becomes the cause of it. And it goes on and on and on. Where will this revengeful action end? When will it stop forming the seeds of samskara? Our business is how to prevent the formation of samskars. When nature reacts and punishes someone, nobody calls this as a revengeful act of nature. Nature has no mind. But when a man takes the matter in his own hands and wants to react, then it becomes a revengeful act because his heart and mind is combined in this particular action. So it becomes revengeful. It is not called justice of nature or justice of a man. That way, otherwise, every judge would be called revengeful judge. But he's making a decision, he's making a judgment based on certain facts which are presented to him. He's simply doing his duty. He is not carrying the malice in his heart if he's a true judge. Sahajmarg teaches us how to create a condition in the heart so that every response, be of love or of revenge, fails to create the seeds of samskars. We are not only focusing on revenge, we are focusing on every sort of responses that emanates from our heart. We have a very long way to go. We have a very, 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 very long way to go in Sahajmarg. Many of our abhyasis, many of our functionaries, they have come a long way. But still there is a large majority of abhyasis and large majority of functionaries and preceptors. They have a long distance to walk, tread on this path. They are far from attaining such a condition, though we cannot accuse our masters being miserly in giving such gifts, creating a heart that will stop creating complexities at every moment. Something happens, you want to take revenge. We are not judges in the nature scheme. In fact, we have to go beyond it. 2 days back, one preceptor asked a question. In the scheme of evolution of consciousness, his question was like this. Body cannot evolve, subtle bodies may have a chance. Soul cannot evolve because it is pure in nature, then why are we transmitting? Why prana is being infused or used as nourishment to the soul if it was perfect and pure in its nature? Where is the chance for it to evolve? Then why pranahuti? What is the use of transmission here? Well, I didn't answer him at that time. I simply made a joke and said, why don't you starve that little thing instead of infusing with nutrition of pranahuti? That was a negative way. Sometimes we understand things when we look at it from a negative perspective. What can happen if it was not there? Transmission does many things. Sometimes it sounds blasphemous, but logically, please try to understand. If I have to depart from the source, with X potency and return back to the source, same way as I was ejected the very first moment with X potency, then what is the use of the whole game of creation and returning back? It serves no purpose. You go out and come back. And you cannot come back, as Babaji puts it here, unless and until you become pure, as we were at the moment of creation. Everything returns back to the source. If we return back with the same potency, then the purpose of creation has failed. We must return back with a greater potency. Purity will be same. Lalaji puts it very beautifully on divisibility of the soul. Likewise, returning back should be our non-divisive nature. We must exponentially expand in our purity and intensity, if that is possible. And I presume at this moment that it is the transmission that potentiates the nature, the purity of the soul. When it returns with manifold potency. Then God would say, wow, someone has returned with a greater wealth. This is one understanding I had, so I thought of sharing that with you. Coming back to these revenge things, you see, we don't have to look at it only in a very negative way, that revenge is the negative thing. Of course it is negative thing, but many positive things also create complexities in our heart. Please pay attention to all those things. And some ramblings of thoughts while I was reading, I have made note, which I'm going to simply read through. I would like you to ponder over a moment or an episode that you encountered where you felt like taking revenge. And you did take a revenge. Think of that moment. How was it? Could you have avoided it? If you had not taken the revenge, what would have been the situation today? I'm reminded of one little advice by Lalaji Sahab. It says, when you do give money to someone, if you have, give it with a mind, preparedness in the mind that it will never be returned. Be prepared for it. It's a great advice. Because if you remember that you have given, it doesn't come back, you will form a tremendous impression in your heart. Such and such a person did not return the money. He is not my friend. He is not my relative. I like to stop my relation with him. Your heart becomes bitter. You were generous in the beginning, but later on, it becomes very bitter. So Lalaji said, forget about it. It's given. When you give only as much. If it is not returned back, you should not be hurt. So give only that much. Do yourself a favor. Otherwise, I'm thinking of the worst possible scenario. You'll have to take a rebirth to receive that money. And who knows, that fellow may have regretted and prayed to God and is liberated. And you keep waiting for, where is my money? But he's gone. Think very seriously, not only about bad things, but about good things also. Okay. Revengeful mind. As I was sharing with you, think of that moment when you first thought of taking a revenge against someone. You are stressed out at that moment. You see nothing else but that person's face, and you feel like destroying that person by hook or crook. If you go to a scientist and ask them to measure your cortisol level, all stressors, neurological stressors, if you measure them, things like cortisol, things like adrenaline, how they shoot up in your system, your BP goes up, your anxiety level increases, so many things. At the cost of which the other neurological transmitters come down, because of which you lose sleep. A simple act or a response of becoming revengeful increases stress level, makes you lose sleep. Your quality of sleep will get spoiled so much, and your health will be affected. See. More than anything else, you are punishing yourself, not the other person. उसका तो काम हो गया, पैसा लेके चला गया से. But why are you torturing and destroying yourself now more? You'll have to have doctor's visits, you'll lose more money now. I've received many letters in recent days, especially boys, easily give up their hearts. Sir, I loved her so much. She's gone, she married somebody else. I become so bitter, I will never marry anybody else in my life now. He closes his heart. He says, I can't love anybody now. See? He takes it upon himself that I love and this is the result, I'll stop loving. So now, the love that was flowing from the heart, now you have become restricted, you have jailed yourself. Uska to शादी हो गया, but now you are torturing yourself more unnecessarily. Of course, it's a natural reaction. Come out of it as fast as possible. Letting go of things. Let go. Let go of desires, of getting even. Revengeful act is nothing but you want to get even with somebody. Tit for tat. But when you start understanding of letting it go, it's the beginning of wisdom. Okay, no, I will not do this. It's okay, that person does this. But to settle down with a peaceful heart and resolve that I forgive that person. I have a bigger heart. And when we do this, we let go, and free up our heart. Be thankful to God for all that. Suddenly you will see so much of peace Suddenly you will see the grace descending from heavens. As a result, you will feel expansion in your consciousness. Greater wisdom will engulf us at that time. Suddenly, you feel as if you have understood something great in life. So we have to, before we breed this thought of taking revenge, pause a little. During such moments, we have to analyze how mind becomes revengeful and how to avoid it. What are the steps? First is because we are hurt, since someone has hurt us, someone says something to you, or someone does something, or something about you, or creates a situation where your integrity is compromised, your personality is questioned, where your intentions are questioned. These sometimes simple things like that. They are questioned and then you get, oh, why is he questioning? They have a right to question, let them question. Why are you getting perturbed by when somebody asks anything about you, or you did this or you didn't do that? It's okay. He has a right to question. But I have also a generosity of the heart which prevents me from reacting. Okay. Then, if the person who is accusing, depending upon the person, two scenarios can arise. Let's see, if the person who is accusing is very strong, he's your boss in the company. Would you take a revenge? Or you wait quietly, I'll do something one day. That is a hidden agenda, long-term agenda. It's like you are keeping that poison in your heart for a very, very long time, and when that boss becomes slightly weaker, you raise your hood and bite him, see? Or, if the person is weak, at that time, moment he accuses, before even he finishes his sentence, you want to finish him off, because he is weak. So there are two scenarios. I like you to ponder over the third scenario of pausing, waiting, and forgetting the whole thing. See? And learn lesson out of it. Not only you learn the lesson, but see if the situation can also arise, so that the other person can also learn something out of it, and you become friends. That will be a noble outcome of a situation. See? We become greater friends in the process. The wiser ones would do things differently. Instead of focusing on others, they'll focus on themselves and see where they have gone wrong. What is the cause of this rebuke or the abuse or the criticism? They would try to analyze their own action and come to conclusion, a fair conclusion. In this process, there can be more hurt, more pain, more anger than when it originally began. Then when we have to think, is it worth it? Is it worth losing temper? What all chances of peaceful resolutions are there? Are there any chances of bridging the differences? Revenge, it's simply a reaction. It perpetuates. If I consider myself wiser and yet take revenge for the wrong done by others, imagine a person who has wronged you. He is no wiser either. Then there is a fight between two less wiser ones. One becomes bitter and hurtful and angry, taking revenge on your dear ones. Sounds paradoxical, but it remains a painful fact of life. Healing suffers, families suffer. Then one starts gauging. In case of retaliation or taking revenge, how much revenge to take? Can you assess the dose of revenge? What is the dose of this punishment to revenge or retaliation? Can anyone judge? There is a quote from a great philosopher from China, Confucius. He said, "Before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves." Another wise advice from another great philosopher, I don't know who he was, but he said, "Forestall or delay the vengeance until wisdom can reassert itself." Delay the act of revenge until the wisdom takes over. Person seeking revenge tends to become the one whom he is wanting to destroy. Think what would our master do under the similar situation. That will put an end to many of our reactions. Would master do this? Will master come down to this level? Do you have the heart to let go and forgive? Have you counted the cost of revenge, the price you'll have to pay? Not in terms of money, but in terms of samskaras, the burden of samskaras that we reap. In taking revenge, we are always focusing on other rather than on ourselves. For a person of conscience, for a person who is God-oriented, becomes aware of every little action. Why must I react? Why must I be revengeful? Instead, he would think how to resolve so that he himself can grow further. He can cement the relationship, foster the good relationship for the sake of God. Act of vengeance or revenge will never allow the peaceful closure to settle. So, what is the point? Or are we fooling ourselves to take revenge in the name of justice? To let go of such ill feelings gives one tremendous freedom and helps improvise his conscience. Let go must be effortless. It should not be taken as weakness, or in some situation letting go of things where they say in Gujarati, chalse, meaning why worry about smaller things or smaller mistakes. When we let go of our smaller mistakes, it is painful, but not letting go of revengeful attitude, the reverse is more painful. Not letting it go, you fight with the rest of the godly kingdom. Not letting it go, you fight with the rest of the godly kingdom. And then you separate yourself. This separation adds another veil. Letting go requires naturalness or sahajta. Naturalness means absence of any efforts. Let us look at others with a sympathetic heart. Maybe there is a justification for their action on myself. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe I deserve this punishment. So let us pray, may God forgive me. So that's all for now.